Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is the EVENEPOEL 2025. Today's race is Remco Evenepoel's start of the 25 season. Now, if you follow the Butterfly Effect and beyond the coverage, I told you I always thought Remco Evenepoel should start someplace a little bit calmer rather than going over to the Belgium Classics because they could be nasty. You start getting some rain, some wet roads, some crosswinds. It could get crazy to come back from your first race, especially the last time when you were really on the bike and got hit off the bike. You crashed into the Postal Service van. So at this point in time, this is a long time off the bike for Remco Evenepoel. It's a late start to the 25 season. But if his training was 100% successful, could he come into this race and do something good? Well, I already told you guys on an earlier video, anything is possible with Remco Evenepoel. And if he could come in with top form, of course, he's one of the favorites. The competition here at the EVENEPOEL, though, well, he's got to beat Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert going top 5 at Paris-Roubaix, but not having his best form. Never in the front group at Paris-Roubaix, but still managed to finish 4th when it was all said and done after fighting and scraping and finding his way back close to the front, but never at the front when the splits came, but still finished 4th at Paris-Roubaix, so clearly he's got to have some form. Other guys to look out for, Tom Pidcock, past winner here. A winner that beat none other than Wout van Aert when he won the EVENEPOEL way back early in his career while he was riding for Team Sky. Well, he's here with Q36.5 now, one of the smallest teams in the professional peloton. One other rider to certainly keep an eye on is going to be EF Education's Palace, because Palace has himself a classic win against Wout van Aert here at the 25 season when he beat all 3 Visma Lease bike riders at the sprint when they came to the line at Dwarsdorf-Vlaanderen. So, Nielsen Palace, what does his form look like? Well, let's find out. When the racing comes on, we got 6 riders in the front group. They're holding a 1 minute and 45 second gap, and we see Remco Evenepoel having a nice day here. It's sunny, the wind doesn't look too crazy, but the peloton is curb to curb, and Remco Evenepoel's relaxing at the back. There's got to be some stress, though, every time you see the peloton curb to curb, and to know that the breakaway riders right now only have a 1 minute 45 second gap means it's been certainly fast at today's race. Keep in mind, today's race, when we start looking at the profile, though, at 162 kilometers, I'll call it 100 miles in length, with 21 bergs and climbs mixed up throughout the race, and they'll do a circuit of 3 laps. On the circuit, they have 4 obstacles in the way, and of course, the first obstacle is the Hertstraat, the second obstacle is the Mokastraat, the third is Holstein, 1 kilometer long, and then the S-Botch with 1.4 kilometer to go is the famous finish here at the EVENEPOEL. With those 4 climbs mixed in a 20-kilometer circuit here that they do 3 times, well, it's going to be action-packed. There's no doubt about that, because each one of those climbs is spread out evenly amongst the 20 kilometers here. So once the cameras again come back and find the break, and we see that gap there at about 1 minute 40 seconds, we know with the peloton at the front, when you start looking at all the teams represented, they're going 10, 11 wide at the front, we know it's going to be nervous and there's going to be a battle start coming on. We come into the circuit, they're holding about a 1 minute gap to the peloton behind, and then we start seeing EF Education on the front drilling it, and after this we come into about 55 kilometers to go, and you see Wout van Aert's up there, Tom Pidcock's up at the front, and Remco Evenepoel's made his way to the front. All right, the Belgian Wonder Kid, let's find out what kind of legs he's got, because with 55 kilometers to go, you know things are going to start getting interesting now that we're into 3 laps to go. As we hit the next climb, EF Education's on the front, and then Thijs Benoot goes to work. The Visma Lease bike rider riding for Wout van Aert starts blowing this race up, and Wout van Aert comes off his wheel and starts attacking hard. Once he does, we start seeing Remco Evenepoel back there closing the gap for Pseudo Quickstep. He's doing a fine job. They go over the top of this climb, and we see a group of about 15, 16 riders all coming back together after a massive explosion from the legs of Wout van Aert. As we see, coming in between the 2 climbs, EF Education's on the front, and then it's Alex Bodine that throws an attack. Oh, no, you don't want to throw an attack. Wout van Aert just started attacking, and we know Remco Evenepoel's on some form because he closed up the gap back there up to Wout van Aert's attack. So as we see Alex Bodine right there coming into the left turn with a little bit of a gap, this is putting him on the front with about 200 meters to go, and the breakaway's dangerously close at this moment. Well, as Alex Bodine's on the front, we see Remco Evenepoel sitting about 5th wheel back there, and he starts throwing in acceleration up the right side. Once he throws in acceleration, he flies past all of the EF Education riders in front, including Alex Bodine up there. And then he's coming up to what's left of the breakaway right now of about 5 riders. He's passing on the right side. Wout Van Aert, Tiespenoots on his wheel. Then we look at Tom Pidcock there, past winner here. He's going around the left side, and it looks like he's fading a little bit as he's going around the left side of the breakaway guys getting caught. Well, we've seen the next attack start going up at the front. It's Wout Van Aert throwing in a huge acceleration, and Tom Pidcock's having a hard time. As Wout Van Aert's throwing in this acceleration, he's flying up this climb, but Remco Evenepoel's locked on the wheel. We're going to see Tiespenoots start opening up a gap. He starts blowing, and we see Jonathan Narvaez from UAE Team Emirates looking back over his shoulder. As he's looking back over his shoulder, when you're sitting on the Chesterfield, you know he's hurting right now, but he throws in one more big acceleration with a sprint and kind of latches on there to the back wheel up there, Visma bike, and Pseudo Quick Steps Remco Evenepoel to keep himself up in this break. The Uno X rider Holster, somehow coming out of the break of originally 6 riders, has made this split. There's 4 guys in the front, and the cameras start giving us the overhead pictures of the peloton exploding in pieces, and we're talking about 48 kilometers to go. They're blowing up all over, and we look at EF Education trying to do damage control after they were once lighting this race up. Well, they're paying the price right now. And then the cameras come back up to the front, and we see Jonathan Narvaez and Uno X Rider are blowing off the wheels. Remco Evenepoel and Wout Van Aert are throwing in huge accelerations. With the two riders working well together, we see Jonathan Narvaez blows. And then some rider comes out of the middle of nowhere. It's Israel Premier Tech back there, Blackmore. Joseph Blackmore is coming out of the group back there that was being led by EF Education with about 6-8 riders back there. As Blackmore's flying around Jonathan Narvaez, he's trying to close the gap up to the 2 leaders. I don't even know who this kid is. I remember his name and know he won Tour l'Avenir, but what he's done this year in the 25 season, I don't have any idea, but right now he's closing up to the back wheel of Remco Evenepoel and Wout Van Aert to put 3 riders in the front. Now, if you're thinking like me and you've watched the Butterfly Effect any amount of time, you know right now the next thing that's popping in my mind is this kid Blackmore a knucklehead or is he not a knucklehead? Because you do not want to pull with the number 4 best rider, first page rider, Remco Evenepoel, and I don't care if it is his first race back, and I don't care if you did just bridge the gap, because Remco Evenepoel is the one who started blowing this race up, and Wout Van Aert's the official one who put paid to everybody else except for Blackmore. But we see Remco Evenepoel look back over his shoulders. Blackmore latches on. Now, to my disbelief, what's he going to do? Blackmore, the kid from Israel Premier Tech, starts pulling on the front with Wout Van Aert and Remco Evenepoel. You know he's got to be a knucklehead, but does he have some great legs? Well, let's find out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this kid has jumped up notches above notches, and now he's come up to the level of first page riders. I don't believe it. We're at the Pronzapil, but let's find out. Well, as Blackmore keeps rotating through, what's happening in the back? No organization back there. Guys are attacking all over. I'll show you one picture with 3 EF Education riders all in separate groups right now chasing each other. At this moment, somebody back there from different teams has to start getting on the radio and just start going, guys, I'm coming. I'm back here. Just wait. Slow down a minute. We'll get back together. We got the numbers, and then we'll start chasing these guys up front. But you got to have your super domestiques on the front. Wait for me. I'm coming. But nobody says that. But everything keeps coming back together as we're coming into about 2 laps to go. We'll see the peloton is together, but they're not working well together until we see a calming in the peloton for a second. Then it's Q36.5 that gets on the front. You see him look back over his shoulder. This is just under 2 laps to go. And once he looks over his shoulder, I'm thinking, okay, they got about a 40-second gap up front to 3 riders. Blackmore is still rotating through. Maybe the young kid from Israel Premier Tech will be told from his director sportif that's supposed to have some experience in the race to talk to the younger rider and say, please sit on, stop pulling through with these guys. If he does, maybe they slow down. Maybe the group in the back being led by Q36.5 right now could do some damage control and hold these guys closer if the chemistry in the back of the peloton will start working together. Now, instead, you go up front. Blackmore is still rotating through with 2 legendary first-page riders like crazy. He's a knucklehead, there's no doubt about it. You go into the back and you see what's happening while the next attack's coming from Cofidis. It's Dylan Toombs throwing an attack with about 35 kilometers to go. So we're about 5 kilometers into this 2 laps to go. He throws an attack. Oh no, Dylan Toombs, what are you doing right here? You're certainly a knucklehead. Are you going to bridge the gap up to these 3 guys? You got to have have your super domestiques on the front right now. It's the only way to control the scenario. I'm not saying it'll work. I'm just saying if you have a chance, of any chance in hell of it working, you got to put your super domestiques on the front. Instead, Dylan Toombs is throwing up attack, and then we see him look back over his shoulder. What's he thinking? I can't do it. There's no doubt about it, because you can't go across a gap to three guys up front. They're holding a 40-second, 50-second gap on you right now, Dylan Toombs, so he gets caught. Then do we see some cohesion back there in the peloton? No, we see tax after tax coming from UAE team members. Later, I saw tax from Kern Farmer going up the road. What are you guys doing? You gotta have super domestiques. If I back you up to 2 laps ago, when we look at the size of that peloton, there was at least 4, if not 5 UAE team members riders in there. Kofi has had multiple riders, but Dylan Toombs wanted to attack and break it up. Q36.5 had multiple numbers. EF Education, they have Vandenberg in here who has some speed and can sprint. So if you can get him into the S-Botch the last time with 1.5 kilometers ago, possibly he could win this too. But you got multiple numbers of at least 3, if not 4 from EF Education. Instead, they keep attacking, so the gap up to the 3 riders is holding as we're coming into 23 kilometers to go. And you see Israel Premier Tech car pull up to the back of Blackmore there. As Blackmore looks over, he's getting the bottles from his director sportif. Is the experience of the director sportif going to tell Blackmore to sit on right at this moment before we come into 1 lap to go? No, he doesn't. Blackmore keeps rotating through with the 2 legends at the front here at the Podium. They come up, it's 20 kilometers to go when they pass it with 1 lap to go here, and the gap's at holding at about 50-55 seconds to the peloton behind. Now they come into the very next climb. All right, it's time for Remco Evenepoel to start going to work, because he wants to get rid of Wout van Aert, because we all know Wout van Aert is a sprinter and a classic specialist, and there's no reason for Remco Evenepoel to want to pull Wout van Aert to the finish, so he starts drilling it on the front. The very first climb. We're only about 4K in the last lap as we see Blackmore start suffering. The gap starts going further and further out as Remco Evenepoel's putting more and more pressure to Wout van Aert as Blackmore's getting dropped just as he's coming off the cobblestones on this climb. That's it for Blackmore. Now we start going up front. Remco Evenepoel right now knows what he's got to do. Try to get rid of Wout van Aert. And Wout van Aert knows what he has to do. Stay with Remco Evenepoel and beat him in the sprint if he's got the legs. They come into the next climb. Again, Remco Evenepoel's accelerating hard. Wout van Aert looks like he's suffering. He's got some bobbing and weaving going to the body as he's still holding on to the back wheel of Remco Evenepoel. The Super Belgium kid has come back day 1 here in 2025 at the Podium. He's throwing pressure on the pedals, but Wout van Aert's not cracking. The peloton behind, they're throwing in attacks all over, still not working well together. They're clearly racing for second on the stage because they've wrapped up Blackmore now halfway into this last lap. Then we go up front with 3 kilometers to go. Remco Evenepoel now wants some help from Wout van Aert, and Wout van Aert knows he's got problems with his legs at this moment, so Wout van Aert starts sitting on. Remco Evenepoel looks back again, then he starts pulling on the front again, throws the elbow out, but Wout van Aert won't come through. We're coming into 1.4 kilometer to go as they start the right turn to start the S-Botch, the final climb here at the Podium for 2025. Who could win this stage? I don't know. Wout van Aert's got speed, but he looks like he's been suffering. Remco Evenepoel has looked flawless on the pedals, closing gaps to Wout van Aert and then pulling everyone along until he dropped the young kid Blackmore, and now has been drilling on the front trying to get rid of Wout van Aert. But as they're going up to S-Botch with about a 1-minute gap on the group behind, Remco Evenepoel knows Wout van Aert at this moment is not going to come through and take a pull. So he's weaving to the left side of the road, always looking back over his shoulder, weaving back to the right side as they're coming up to the final bend to the top of the S-Botch with about 400, 300 meters to go. We see Remco Evenepoel all the way over on the right side of the road. It starts to flatten out at about 250, 225. Then Remco Evenepoel's going to throw in a vicious acceleration on the pedals. He looks back over his shoulder, throws everything into the pedals again, moves it over to the left side fencing. We come into about 100 meters to go. Wout van Aert starts his attack from the second position, comes out to the right side there of Remco Evenepoel. Then it looks like he's getting nowhere, no acceleration whatsoever. He goes back onto the back wheel of Remco Evenepoel. At 50 meters to go, he gets back up off the saddle, but at 25 meters to go, Wout van Aert sits down and blows, and Remco Remco Evenepoel wins his first opening debut season here at the 25 year as he crosses the line, arms raised, celebrating big-time victory with punches to the sky as he crosses the line to win the Podium 2025 over Wout van Aert. And guys, it was not even close at the finish. The speed in the legs of Remco Evenepoel was amazing when he started his jump with about 225 meters to go on the right side next to the fencing. Then he led it all the way over to the left, and Wout van Aert could never make any inroads onto the back wheel there of Remco Evenepoel as he finished second on today's Podium. What happened back there to round out the podium? Well, we look at the podium. It's bike throw there at the finish as we see Murgado there for UAE Team Emirates. Antonio Murgado round out the podium here at the Podium. Now we go after the finish. Remco Evenepoel gets the celebration there, a little pat on the back from Wout van Aert. Well done from the two Belgium first-page riders here on the Butterfly Effect as they welcome each other after finishing the line here. We see Wout van Aert's a fine athlete right here, displaying great courtesy here and congratulating Remco Evenepoel on his comeback start of the 25 season. And then Remco Evenepoel is going to fall into the arms there of his wife, get some hugs, get some smooches. Then he's going to pop up and celebrate his first victory here at the 25 season. In his interview, thanks everybody around him that helped him recover from the crash in early December, come back to this victory. And he certainly mentions his dad motor pacing him to get the fine last bit of leg speed he needed to be able to win at the Podium. The interview with Wout van Aert, he says, Remco Evenepoel was just too good. And Remco Evenepoel, I got to admit, looked exceptional. So getting second to Remco Evenepoel in today's race at the Podium is no shame for Wout van Aert. Now, what do we get to look forward to when we come into the next weekend here coming up real soon on Sunday? Amstel Gold. Remco Evenepoel has shown he has the legs to battle with Tadej Pogacar. Does he have Tadej Pogacar-like speed? Well, if he had that kind of form, I don't think Blacksmore would have bridged the gap. But there is something to keep in mind. Here at the Podium, it's only a 162-kilometer race. So when they're attacking with under 50 kilometers to go or thereabouts, Blacksmore, remember, only has about 60, 65 miles in his legs, so he's a bit fresher to come across the gap. That's why it looks a little bit tighter when you're at races that are about 100 miles or 160K in length, is everyone's a little bit even. Remember, at that distance, their level drops a little bit closer to even when you start getting into the monument races and the 6th monument race, Amstel Gold, starting on Sunday. They don't have a 6, but I give it a 6 up here on the Butterfly Effect. That race at 250K is going to be a bit different when you're throwing in attacks after you have 100, 125 miles in your legs instead of only 60 miles in your legs like we saw here at the Podium. So it's hard to tell where Blackmore's fitness is. It's got to be good. Will it be good enough for Amstel Gold? They're completely different races. There's no doubt about it. So we're going to have to wait and see. But when we're talking about Remco Evenepoel, clearly he has some good form. Can he follow the legs there of Tadej Pogacar? Tadej Pogacar still has to be the favorite on my book. That's why I have him as the #1 ranked rider in the world. And I don't know if Blackmore would have been able to close that gap if it was Tadej Pogacar throwing in acceleration. But we're going to have to wait and see for Amstel Gold. Congratulations, Remco Evenepoel, on your comeback start of the season here, winning at the Podium. Now we got something to look forward to for Sunday, so like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for the Butterfly Effect real soon.